Okay, so once again, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining this session. Uh, Yesterday, when I was doing this demonstration, right, I felt that kind of it was taking too much of time. Even for today's session, I was thinking for such a demonstration, but the problem was with AWS when I create some of the networking elements there that were taking too much of time, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, and I think that is totally wastage of your time, right? If I do a live demonstration. So what I thought is uh, that I will record the live actions, whatever I do on the AWS, and will post on the same website, right? For example, yesterday we were trying to build two virtual machines. We were trying to build our own VPC, internet gateway, and security groups, ACLs, and everything, right? But believe me, if I do that live, it is going to take much more time. And there are still some of the topics which are very, very important for you, and I don't want to waste your time there. So I'll make sure that I'll record all those sessions, like creating whatever we wanted to do yesterday or today, and I will post them on the website, right, which we have. So do not worry. It doesn't mean that there is not going to be any hands-on thing. It will be there. But the good part is that if you understand the theoretical concepts here and then see those videos which I will post after some time. Okay. So having said that, let's discuss what is the agenda for today's session. So we are pretty much comfortable with creating our own VPCs, our own compute machine there, and then we were able to make that compute machine able to communicate to internet or other compute machines. But that was happening inside your private network in the cloud, right? Which is VPC in AWS language. But now what we are going to do is maybe there is a requirement to create more than one VPC, and there are. So the whole idea is that if we create two VPCs, then we know that one machine inside a particular VPC won't be able to communicate to other one. Then what we need to do, and that is where this VPC peering is going to come into picture. Then we'll try to understand what this virtual private gateways and direct connect is. So guys, we are shifting more towards how you are going to connect whatever you have created in cloud to your enterprise. So that was the whole sole purpose of understanding networking in cloud. Once you have done your part, means VPC and everything in the cloud, how are you going to connect back that infrastructure to your enterprise, to your data center, right? And that is where all these things comes into picture. And believe me, you should know what are the various mechanisms, what are the various options to connect from your enterprise to your private network in the cloud. Because I feel most of us don't know that, and that's why basically there are a lot of problems when our customer says that he's trying to deploy, he's trying to connect with multiple clouds, right? So if he's trying to connect multiple cloud, we should know what are the multiple options available, what are their advantages and disadvantage, and why exactly we are choosing maybe something like this over this or over this, right? So we will be discussing these various networking connectivity options, right, into our cloud from our enterprise. And one such option is through private gateways or direct connect. We call express route also. The direct connect is we known in AWS, and we call the same thing as express route in Azure. Then we are going to discuss virtual private gateway and how it comes with the fact that we can create site-to-site VPN tunnel also. And we will consider the use case, because if I tell you that it is used to make site-to-site VPN, and if you don't have any idea about it, that is complete waste, right? So we will consider that how we are doing today, and then how we are using the today's technology to connect back to our cloud network. Then the other thing is client VPN. I know everyone use AnyConnect, and that is exactly the client VPN, right? Which makes SSL or VPN tunnel into your enterprise, and then you can access your enterprise resource. We need to see that also, right? Because in this COVID time, most of us are working from home, and if a complete enterprise infrastructure is in the cloud, how are you going to connect to it using your VPN client? Okay, which is slightly different as compared to site-to-site VPNs. Then last, we are going to discuss in today's session transit VPC and transit gateway. But it doesn't mean that the options are finished, right? There are few more options how you are going to connect your enterprise to cloud, which we are going to discuss in tomorrow's class, which is basically cloud on ramp in SD-WAN and some other things which are going to be really, really interesting. If you know SD-WAN, that is perfectly fine. If you do not know, please try to attend that session. It is going to be interesting. So this is the agenda at last. If you have any question, just post them along with the session, and Punish will make sure he will pick the questions which are really important to understand. Having said that, let's discuss the first concept today, VPC peering. And to understand any concept, we should understand the why behind it, right? We are pretty much confident with respect to how a cloud looks, right? We have cloud, then we have different regions into that cloud, and inside those regions, we have different availability zones, right? What we have done, we have created one VPC here, we have created another VPC in different region, and we are pretty happy with the communication inside those VM. And if this VM want to go out and connect anything over the internet, they were doing it pretty easily, right? But now my problem is I have these two VPCs for the same organization, maybe for XYZ. This is VPC 1, this is VPC 2, and now what I want is I want a connectivity between them. So on its own, without doing anything, you cannot make a communication of this VM towards this VM. So there is no communication inherently. But what you need to do is you need to tell the cloud service provider that, yes, I have created these two VPC and I want to connect between them. So there is a virtual service offered by AWS, which we call VPC peering, right? VPC peering means there is a connection and you cannot see that connection because that is not physical, which you can see, but that is built over this underlying infrastructure of AWS, right? So what they are doing is that if you want to understand in terms of how physically it will look, they will create a direct connection between two VPCs, right? So suppose this connection name is VPC peering, and here you can say that this interface of this connection is say 0/1, and this is 0/2. By the way, guys, the connection name is not like this 0/1, 0/2, but we are from the background of networking. It makes more sense to you if I explain you this thing, right? So suppose here I have a subnet range which was 10.20.0.0/16. Here we had 10.10.0.0/16. When we create this VPC peering, what I need to do, I just need to tell that in this routing table that if you want to reach 10.20.0.0/16, you can reach it via this peering, and that is it, or via 0/2, right? But in AWS, you need to specify the name of this VPC peering, whatever you are choosing it here, right? It is very simple to create. When you create VPC peering, you just need to tell what are the two VPC who wants to be paired. And by the way, this is point-to-point, right? This is not multi-point. It means that to every end of this link, you can find one VPC, one here, right? So when you create your VPC in any cloud deployment, you need to say your name of this VPC and then basically what two VPCs it is going to connect, right? Once it is done, this link is up, and then you need to define this static route that yes, if you want to reach 10.20.0.0/16, which is the IP address CIDR range of your second VPC, you just define that static route here. Similarly, you need to define a static route here for what? For 10.10.0.0/16 via interface 0/1 or via your VPC, VPC peering, which you have defined here. So it is as simple as that, right? But what is the catch here? So I think you understand that why we are doing VPC networking, just to connect two VPCs which are in different region or maybe in the same region, but you do not have connectivity of VMs. But now what is the catch? How basically it is a problem if you have more than 6 or 7 or more than 4 or 5 VPC. So to explain you that, suppose if I have one more VPC here, by the way, we can define as many VPC as we want in a particular region, and I have one more VPC here, say. So this is my VPC number 3, this is VPC number 4. I know that there is a communication between VPC 1, which is this one, and VPC 2. But now, if you can see, there is no communication between VPC 2 and VPC 3 or VPC 4 and 3. So what I can do is I can define a VPC peering between these two guys also, right? Very easy. I need to create another VPC peering, and I need to attach them with these two VPCs, and we are good to go. But the problem here is that VPC peering is not transitive. What I meant to say is that now if you can see that one can be able to communicate to 2 and one can be able to communicate to 3, and there is a connection between them, it doesn't mean that 2 can be able to communicate with 3 via 1, right? So this is basically they are saying that it is non-transitive. So basically, if you try to understand from the logical perspective why they are doing this, so this they just want to avoid the loop of these subnets, right? And that's why we run IBGP. If you are aware of BGP, then in IBGP, basically we have the same kind of thing, that a peer who is receiving a route, it is not sending the same route to another IBGP peer. And why we are doing this? We are just avoiding loops, right? If you are not comfortable with this concept, that is perfectly fine. But for now, you try to understand that if I have specific VPC peering between two VPCs, or then it doesn't mean that it is transitive. So there is no communication between second and third if you have this kind of an infrastructure. But now the problem is, if this is the case, then you need to have, right, connectivity like this, means full meshed peering. And if this is the case, then you can understand for this number of for this 4 VPCs, I would be requiring 4 into 4 minus 1, which is 3 divided by 2, which means it is 6, right? And the formula is simple if you want to calculate such lengths, n into n minus 1 by 2. So right now, if I can see that for only 4 VPC peer, you need 6. And consider if you have 8 or 9 VPCs, right, you will require how many? So it is exponential, right? So this is not the feasible solution, and that's why we are going to have another thing. But you should consider this also, that if you have only few VPC inside a region or inside a particular service provider, you can connect them using VPC peering. But yes, if you have many, this is not the viable option for you. Okay? So this is good. We have created multiple VPCs. We have created a VPC peering between them, and these guys are happily talking with each other. But now the question arises, how are you going to make sure that whatever you have created in AWS Azure, you can connect it back to your enterprise, right? And now, whatever we are going to learn after this board is solving this problem. You have created your VPCs inside AWS, and now you are going to connect it back to your enterprise. And for that, the first option is that you can have virtual private gateway and direct connect. So what exactly it is, right? So here, if you can see that we have our company data center, and the company name is XYZ, and I have created a VPC inside or my own virtual cloud inside a service provider network, maybe AWS or Azure, right? Now I want to connect this VPC to my data center. So for sure, I would need something here, right? So say this is the router, and now I am having several servers here, which are, and my aim is that I want to connect to this data center to this VPC. And of course, this data center is also connected with various branches, right? Campus network branches and all. So if I am able to connect this data center to this VPC, then of course, all these guys will be able to communicate, right? All my branches, say this is branch 1, branch 2, everything will be able to connect. But the question is how we are going to do that. So there is one more service provided by AWS or Azure, through which what you can do is you can spin up a virtual private gateway here. Okay, sorry for that. You can spin up a virtual private gateway here, right? It is just like this router, right? And you can this is a service from Azure or AWS. Once you do that, you just need to connect your VPC to this virtual private gateway, right? And now this guy is as good as this router. So how you can connect your data center to Azure to this VPC? You can buy a lease line, right? And there are many service providers. And if you remember that I talked about CNF also, right? So there are multiple ways you can acquire this lease line, which is nothing but a direct point-to-point connection between your data center to nearest Azure, right? And I could notice there is a question, and that is very good question, and do not worry about it because you do not know all the options. We are covering them one by one. So we will be increasing the complexity also and increasing the use case also. So this is the beginning, right? This is the beginning. How are you going to connect your data center? So I want to make it very simple, and that's why I am starting with direct connect. If you want to connect it using lease line, you need to purchase this line from the service provider who has the connectivity from your data center to this nearest Azure point of presence, right? So the idea is simple. You are just spinning up this VPG or virtual private gateway here. You have this route here, and of course, this is connected to your whatever the infrastructure which you are having, right? And once done, then here, what you can do is you can simply having a static route that if you want to reach this VPC, suppose this VPC is having this route 10.10.0.0/16, right? If you want to reach to that, then you can reach to that via this private lease line, say which is 0/1, right? Via 0/1. Similarly, for this complete data center range, which could be anything, maybe 172.16.0.0, another private address range, and you need to define this here, that if you want to reach 172.16.0.0/16, you can reach it via what? Via VPG, right? Because this is the gateway for you to going out and reach to this data center. This is simple, but believe me, this model is scalable in terms of creating the static routes and doing everything? If it is not, if you have multiple things, right, and you cannot summarize your data center, then there are another options also. So instead of doing static, you can run routing protocol also. So this VPG is capable of supporting the BGP, right? And if you run BGP, then of course you can advertise this route here in the BGP. You can advertise whatever the route of your data center into BGP, and then they will be dynamically exchanging the route, which is the job of BGP. But we do not mean this cloud service providers. Mainly, everyone is not supporting everything else than BGP, and believe me, you do not want anything else because BGP is capable of doing a lot of things, whatever you need, right? So first of all, this lease line, and that is what I said, that this lease line is, in terms of AWS, is known as direct connect. So this methodology, right, whatever we have done right now is the concept in AWS we call it as direct connect, and in Azure we call it express route. And believe me, these terminologies creates a lot of impact when you are connecting your enterprise data center to AWS Azure. It happened with me. My customer said that they are interested in express route, but if you do not have any idea about express route, then it's a problem, right? You were looking into the internet about it, and there are multiple results, because this is a proprietary term, right? We call express route in Azure, we call direct connect in AWS, and both are the same thing. And if you believe in, this is nothing, just lease line connection on which you are running a routing protocol and exchanging route, right? I do not know what is express about it. So maybe they call it express because they have the complete ownership of this, and that this link is fast enough, right? If you compare it with internet, this link is fast enough because you have direct leased line connection. But as a lot of you were thinking about this, I believe you were thinking that this is going to be the costliest solution if you have such kind. And suppose if you have many data center, like 2 or 3 data center, then you need to have this lease line for every data center, which is not a scalable solution, right? So generally, what people are doing here is, even my customer is doing it, is they are taking services of a middleman, which we call carrier neutral facility. So this guy is having high-speed connection into almost every cloud, into internet service provider, also into MPLS service, whatever, means whatever you want, that it is having the connection in AWS, GCP, and whatnot, right? So and that is why, basically, because there are a lot of service provider, that is why you are getting these connections cheaper. So what everybody is doing right now, nowadays, is they are connecting to these CNFs, right? There are multiple data centers, and now they are rest assured that CNF will give me a connection to each and every cloud. So you can consider this as a multi-cloud connectivity, the CNF thing, right? So this is a cheaper connection as compared to this completely owning this lease line, right? So if you haven't heard about them, it is worthwhile to go and check the first recording of this entire series, right? Which is already available on the website. So multiple options, but this is what we call express route, because you have direct connectivity into the cloud provider. Doesn't matter whether you are going via CNF or you are having this lease line. The terminology is express route in Azure and direct connect in AWS. But the thing is simple. I know most of you guys who are in this networking domain for a long, for them this is piece of cake. But believe me, guys, when you actually do all these things and you do not know the terms, this is sometimes it is pretty harder to understand what's going on with respect to your customer network. So that is the intention, that you are aware of your all the options. So first option is you create this VPG and then direct connect. So in terms of security, if you see that this lease line is private, totally private, and this connection via CNF is totally private. So sometimes you don't consider that it is okay to send everything in plain text, right? You are not using any kind of encryption or eventually the VPN, right? But suppose if I do, this solution is quite expensive for me, right? I do not want to have lease line, or I do not want to go via CNF. Then what are other options, right? And if I'm considering a transport which is not lease line or which is not CNF, then there is another transport which we can say, which is maybe your internet or MPLS, right? But in case of MPLS, you are not sure that whether the service provider is also connected with Azure. So the most viable solution is internet. But if you are sending anything over internet, right? Now it is not the leased line, but if you want to connect everything over internet, you do not want to send it in the plain text, right? You need to encrypt the traffic before sending it, and that is what exactly the site-to-site VPN does for us, right? And that is the next point of discussion. We will be using virtual private gateway, but not in the form of direct connect, but in the form of site-to-site tunnels, right? Before discussing this site-to-site VPN, so it is not the new thing, guys, at all. We have been doing this for a long period of time, right? Means it is already there from last 20-25 years, right? Site-to-site tunnel. So what the idea is, suppose you have two sites of your organization. I'm not talking about cloud. I'm just talking about from the viewpoint of what exists currently. Then we'll try to understand the same thing with respect to cloud, right? So suppose you have two branches, Mumbai branch, and this is your Delhi branch. What you want is the solution of implementing a leased line between them is really costly. So what management is suggesting that we are going to use internet. We'll put one router here. We'll put one router here, right? And now over this internet, this is very simple that this R1 and R2 can talk. If this R1 and R2 can talk, what I can do is I can build a tunnel over it, and whatever I send over this tunnel is encrypted. So that on internet, nobody is able to see my traffic, right? And this is nothing but we call this tunnel or encrypted tunnel as site-to-site VPN. Why site-to-site? Because it is connecting my two sites. And the important thing is, now this tunnel is a point-to-point tunnel. If you consider it's a virtual thing, it's an overlay. If you consider, then basically the internet is providing me connectivity between this R1 and R2. It means that I can say firmly that it is the underlay, right? But I am making a virtualized tunnel over it. Means there is overlay, right? And now in this overlay, I am sending encrypted packet, and now this is the point-to-point connection. This blue link, if you can see, it is a point-to-point. But over the internet, there are multiple routers in between Mumbai and Delhi. But if you can see, the blue one is the point-to-one. And what we need to run a routing protocol, we need just the direct connectivity. Not in case of BGP, but in case of IGP, we need actually the direct connectivity, and which is providing by this guy. So what I can do between this router 1 and this router 2, I can run any protocol like OSPF and all over this tunnel, which is this one, and I can exchange routes. So for example, if I do not want to do static routing, I have say 50 routes here, I have say 70 routes here, right? What I need to do is I need to run a BGP protocol here, and then advertise all those routes in BGP here and then here. That is it. Delhi and Mumbai branch is connected securely over internet. And we call this technology a site-to-site tunnel. Exactly this is what we are doing, right? So exactly this is what we are doing in case of connecting our own data center to Azure without using any leased line. So you can see your Azure is connected to internet without any problem. They have the connectivity. Your data center is connected to this internet. What if I can put two routers? Drawing is bad. One is here, right? And one is here. And what was that? That is actually your virtual private gateway, right? If you do this, then VPG, you need to connect your VPC to this VPG. There is a connectivity, and now this VPG is definitely, because your cloud is connected to it, to the internet. This VPG is also connected to internet indirectly, right? It means that this router, this interface, this one can reach to this VPG's interface. So you can define a public IP address here. So when you define your VPG, it will assign a public IP address here. Say it was x.x.x.x/32 or something like that. Or here we have y.y.y.y, right? These two can talk. If these two can talk, then we create a similar tunnel over it, right? Which is the same point-to-point tunnel which I was talking here. So if I have a reachability between x.x.x.x and y.y.y.y, I can easily be reachable over this tunnel, which is my secure tunnel. Actually, by the way, guys, we call this as IPsec because how we are encrypting with what keys is the responsibility of IPsec negotiation. If you really want to check how it works, again, just go to the website, just look toward the SD-WAN sessions, and I believe on 4th or 5th session we have talked about the security concepts in detail there, right? Very simple, means you need to what you can say, negotiate, yeah, few parameters, and your IPsec tunnel will be up, right? So this thing is completely secure over internet, so no one is going to breach it, right? So there are multiple technologies which we can do. The IPsec is there, SSL is there, but generally for site-to-site VPNs, if I'm connecting two sites, and believe me, this is my another site. This is a site Z. This is site 1. If I want to connect between them, then this is the solution. I can have IPsec tunnel. I can have multiple. Now the point is that, can we run the same protocol here? Yes, we can run, but cloud only support BGP. So we need to run BGP over it. But if you are having few tunnels like it, then basically static you can do static routing also, which I could see most of the people are using in cloud. But yes, when their network grows, then basically it's a problem, right? So right now, this is one of the connectivity options, site-to-site VPN, which is the good point. And believe me, we are going to discuss that what if this number of VPC goes on increasing. So we have 10 VPCs here, and we have 2 data centers. Then it means that for every VPC, I need to connect a VPG, virtual private gateway, right? And then I need to connect from every data center to every data center, right? So you can think of, because generally, if you connect here, and there is, so one more concept, guys. If you have a VPC pairing also between this VPC 1 and VPC 2, and you are able to connect to VPC 1 over this IPsec tunnel, it doesn't mean that you can traverse over this VPC pairing, and this is a limitation in AWS. So if 2 VPCs are connected, and you are connected over the IPsec tunnel, or via the VPG on the one VPC, you are not able to communicate to the second one, right? Because they are again avoiding the loops. So that's why basically if you have 10 VPCs, you need to create 10 VPG, and then you need to create 10 or 2. If you have more than one data center, then you need to create multiple tunnels, 20. And you can see that this is quite unmanageable. So for large network, it is unmanageable, but for if you have 1 or 2 VPCs, you can consider this option also. So I am giving you all the options. What are the options available there, and what you can recommend your customer to, right? Because if you have only 1 or 2 VPC, you don't want to recommend other options, because this is the viable solution, efficient solution, right? But of course, if they are running more than few VPCs, then you can consider the other options which we are going to discuss. Punish, I think I am continuously talking from last 35 minutes. If you get some question, we will take it for some time, means 1 or 2, and then basically we can move ahead.
Okay, so That's from Naveen. Can VMs in different AZ region communicate using their public IP? So yes.
Yeah, using public IP, they can communicate to anywhere. But you don't want to do it, because if you want to have private communication between a database and your server, you don't want that conversation to go over the internet, right? So that is why we need communication over these private IP addresses. And why do you want to leave to internet and come back if you have connectivity inside the same cloud? Yeah, Punish, go ahead.
I think that's the one which you were talking about in case if we have more than 10 VPC.
Yeah, we will
will
be discussing.
having
Yeah, we'll
yeah
be discussing that.
discussing. There's one from Raj. That's what is. So I think that's already been answered. But it's what is the need of VP gateway if there is a service available of users to directly connect to AWS VPC?
So this is the service actually. This virtual private gateway is the service. Without that, you cannot so if you consider here, we need to define, this is a service available, but you need to use this service. They charge this service. Okay. So when you create this service, means any service is there, maybe some are free, which comes under your free tier, but for organization, these are chargeable, right? So when you spin up this VPG there, it is not like Elastic Compute or like your spinning server, but this is a service. You need to create this VPG. Once you create that, then you will be charged on the basis of per hour or per day. Okay. It also depends on how many VPCs you are going to connect with this VPG, right? And they charge on the basis of that. So this is the service which you are going to need when you want to connect your data center to your Azure. And the service name is VPG. You need to create it and you need to connect it back to the VPC. But the implementation is very simple. You just create in the UI and just define the name. Where do you want to connect this VPG? And then you need to select your VPC, and that is it, right? All other configuration with respect to IPsec, BGP, it is there, means which depends on where do you want to connect. And that is it. Just you need to define here what is your customer endpoint. It means that you need to know what this IP address is. If you know this IP address, you can define this IP address here in this VPG, this service, that I want to connect to y.y.y.y. Similarly, I can go here R1 to tell him that we need to make a IPsec connection towards what? Towards VPG. What is the IP address of this VPG? x.x.x.x. Once you do that, your tunnel is going to be up. Maybe you need load balancing also, right? And then you can have multiple tunnels also. So this is what. So the other topic is any other question, Punish? Or we can take it later. We can take it later. So now this is the situation which is, and believe me, there was no solution, not an efficient solution before 2019. And after 2019, we are in the COVID era, right? Most of the guys are working in from home, and there is where this comes into picture. But suppose let's not talk about cloud for a few minutes, right? What exactly happens when you are sitting at your home with your laptop and you want to access something in your organization, right? Say this server which is running any service, maybe say it is running the DCP where you log, and I'm not talking that right now this workload has been shifted to cloud, but previously we used to file our hours in this tool DCP, right? You are sitting here, you want to access this DCP tool. The first thing what everyone was doing previously is they need to connect it using their VPN client, and here we were using AnyConnect, right? Actually, what was happening behind the scene is the Cisco organization has put a firewall here, right? Which they call secure gateway also. Secure gateway, right? And generally that was the ASA. So what this AnyConnect was doing is, over this internet, right? It was making a tunnel just like the IPsec tunnel, but the technology is different. We are doing this on an application layer, but I'm not saying that AnyConnect is not capable of doing IPsec. It can, right? So, but the most efficient way is that this AnyConnect client actually make a tunnel to this firewall ASA. Once it is there, then basically it is as good as that you are sitting with this laptop and here, somewhere here, because whatever the IP address range here, say this is 10 dot something dot something dot something, you will get the same IP address range here. I'm not sure how many of you have checked, but if you do a IF when you connect to the VPN using AnyConnect, and you do IF config if you are on Linux, or IP config if you are on Windows, right? You will see that you will be getting one IP address from the Cisco range, right? So what experience it is creating for me is that this laptop is actually inside my organization, and then I am accessing everything. It is as simple as that. How it is doing is, basically it is creating this tunnel, SSL tunnel. Once this is created, then it creates a virtual NIC. Just whenever you make a VPN connection using AnyConnect, just trying to see your Ethernet connection, and you will see one more NIC there, which is created by this AnyConnect. And you have IP address also on this. And from where you are getting it? From this ASA will be providing you this IP address, because I have configured this ASA so that whenever you make a SSL connection for me, towards me, I will be sending you an IP address which you are going to configure here. Once it is done, then basically, although this is the virtual tunnel, but you are sending the traffic from whatever the IP address is provided by the firewall. Suppose that was 10.x.x.x, right? And your complete network is on 10.x. something, and you are getting the IP address in the same range. So it means that you are almost sitting here, right? This is again a type of VPN. Previously, we called that VPN as site-to-site VPN. Now we are telling this kind of VPN as remote access VPN. Why remote access? Because you are remotely sitting with a device and you are trying to access your company resources over the public network, which is internet. Right? I think things are making sense. This is what I'm. It is nothing new. It is already there. I believe most of you know about it. But if not, this is how we were used to access DCP when pre-2019 era, right? We used to make the VPN connection into a data center, and then we were connecting. But now, what if an organization, maybe it's not on DCP, they do not want to put that in data center, they are putting that in this cloud, right? Or maybe a server which you need to log in and and you are building on some code or something like that, and you move this server into the Azure or AWS. How are you going to reach to this server, right, securely? So there are two ways. You continue connecting to your data center. Just let me do. You continue to connect your data center using this SSL VPN tunnel, which is my remote access VPN, and then this data center is connected to AWS Azure on Direct Connect or whatever is the technology. So what is going to be the actual flow? If this guy A wants to access this workload or a server here on which he wants to log in and do the work, the traffic pattern which I am showing in the green color, it is going to be like it is going to your organization first, then coming here over this direct link and accessing the resource, right? But sometimes this is not the efficient path, right? So AWS Azure has come across another solution for this, that instead of making VPN tunnel to this ASA firewall, right? I can give you a construct, I can give you a service, and through that service, I can offer a client VPN here, again, a service, which we know as client VPN. And now, instead of connecting to your ASA firewall and accessing your organization, you can directly connect to me, right? I'll use the same pen. which you are using to depict this SSL VPN connection. You can directly connect to me, and this client VPN service is connected towards this VPC, right? As simple as that. Once it is done, the traffic flow is going to be simple. It is like this way if you are accessing this thing, right? Why I need a VPN? Because I am accessing everything over this internet, which is an unsecured medium. And how I am making it secure? By using SSL VPN connection. So this is simple, right? But now the concept is going to be really same, guys, right? Previously, we will be getting the IP address from this range. Here also, this client is assigned me an IP address here. So if you consider from your point of view, everything is going to be, you will be seeing a new NIC, virtual NIC, IP address is assigned to that. And similarly, here also, this VPN client is connected to at least one subnet of your VPC through which it is going in and out, right? If it is taking too much time to understand, that is perfectly fine. Because if you want to understand that, you need to have an understanding of remote access VPN, how it works. And means we can have a separate session on that. But you should consider this as an option, that if your customer says that I want my remote users to directly connect it to the workload in cloud, right? Securely, then there is one option, and the option is client VPN, which we can use. But believe me, how they charge you, they are charged per client basis. So if you have, say, 20, 30, or maybe some company may have 1,000 employees who wants to direct, and then you will be seeing these direct SSL connection from each and every laptop across the world, right, to this client VPN gateway. And they charge on the basis of per hour, maybe $0.02 per hour, right? They also charge because this client VPN can be connected to multiple VPCs. So that through the single connection, you can come here and access the services of this VPC also, right? But they do charge that how many subnets or how many VPC you are connecting over the server, maybe $0.5 per hour, right? So you need to tell customer that these are the rates, and how do you want to consider? Do you want to consider still means I do not want to use this because this is charging me a lot, and I already have the infrastructure to go to this ASA, create this VPN tunnel, and then I have the traffic path like this. Okay, sorry for this. I should draw traffic path with the different color. Okay, I should go like this. So means customer need to think about it, right? Whether he wants to go directly, which is basically you will be having the great experience in terms of application use, or they want to take a hit on the experience somewhat, but this is a most cost-effective solution. So that is why, means a lot of guys, you must be thinking that this traffic pattern doesn't make sense, right? But it starts making sense when you talk about cost, right? So you will be seeing both the options. You will be seeing both the option here as well as here. So this was all about remote access VPN. So you should consider all these options, right? First one, we discussed the direct connect or express gateway using virtual private gateway. On previously with that, we discussed about VPC peering also. Then we discussed about this site-to-site VPN, which was pretty simple, right? Then we discussed about client VPN in case of remote access. How do you want to go, right? At last, we need to discuss this thing, which is client VPC and transit gateway, which is solving the problem which most of guys are asking, that what if we have more VPCs, right? So we'll try to understand first what is the what is the need of transit VPC or the transit gateway, and then we try to understand. But before beginning this topic, I would say we have just 5 minutes now. We can discuss transit VPC concept. No worries. So if you consider that if I have 3 VPC into a particular cloud, maybe Azure, whatever it is, if you want to have a connectivity between them, then what you are going to do is you need to create VPC peering between them. Very simple, right? Like this. I don't see it's an efficient solution, because if you have more than 10, then you can calculate that 10 into 9 divided by 2. It means that you need 45 VPC peering, which is not a scalable solution at all. You need to manage it. You need to specify the static routes and everything. It is not possible at all, right? So there is a solution which was suggested by AWS, that we can have a single transit VPC or the VPC. I think you understand the reason why we are doing this. Managing 45, 50 VPC peering is going to be difficult. What we are doing now is we are just creating one more VPC. We are telling that this is not a usual VPC. This is a transit VPC, right? And by the way, this is a solution from AWS. This is not the service from AWS. So it is not chargeable. But to use the solution, you need to deploy a Cisco or any router which is supported by AWS. Most of the guys were using Cisco CSR or the cloud services router, right? So they were using it here. If you want to have a smoother solution, you don't want to connect all those 45 peering. So what you can do is you can define a virtual gateway at every VPC, and then you can define a transit VPC. Inside the transit VPC, you need to spin up a Cisco router or any router which is capable of providing all these IPsec connections. Once you have done that, then you connect this. By the way, these are the VPN connection, guys. The pink one or the purple one. These are the VPN connections, right? So we need to make 3 VPN connection to this Cisco device, and eventually this Cisco device is making a VPN connection into your data center. The solution is quite simple. Now you don't need to connect to every gateway from here, right? As you can see, there is only one connection. So this solution is efficient in terms of number of connections you need to manage from your data center, right? But what is the problem associated with? You need to have this compute or this Cisco routers running there, which eventually is costing, which eventually cost you, right? If you want to run, for the redundancy sake, if you want to have more than one, you can. But again, this is running on AWS infrastructure inside your VPC. You are also responsible for it. And if you are also responsible, you are also responsible for the cost, right? So if your customer asks that I have multiple VPC, I do not want to make a lot of VPC peering, I just need to connect to it. Suggest them that we can use transit VPC, but there are some disadvantage of using VPC, transit VPC, that we need to run few Cisco routers inside this, and then I can make VPN connections, right? These are the local VPN connections from your virtual private gateway to this Cisco router, which is inside the transit VPC, and there is a VPN. This is the VPN connection from your data center to transit VPC. And if you have multiple data centers also, you can have the same connection, right? The simple one means you don't have to run to each virtual gateway. But still, the disadvantage is there, and that's why AWS or Azure came up with a different solution. And the solution was, do not use transit VPC. We are off, and do not use these routers, which are costing you. We will offer you, instead of solution, we are going to offer you a service. And that service name is Transit Gateway, right? We will be discussing how Transit Gateway is more efficient as compared to Transit VPC in tomorrow's session. But believe me, there is one more solution, which is known as Transit Gateway, which is more efficient than this. And we are going to discuss that tomorrow. So I would like to take questions now. And Punish, yes, please.
Yep. So it's from Kiran. Do we need to have one VPG for each region, or is it one VPG?
Not region. You need to have one VPG per VPC, Virtual Private Gateway. Yeah.
And that's how.
That is where this transit. That is why this Transit Gateway solution, you will be liking it. Yeah. Yeah, Punish.
Okay. How is VPG different from Internet Gateway?
Yes. When you talk about Internet Gateway, you are talking in terms of public IP addressing, right? We are talking about here private. So if you consider this VM here, if you consider this VM, this one, it will be getting two IP addresses, public as well as private, right? Why do you want to have the communication on this public if you can directly communicate inside this using the private one? Otherwise, you need to go out and come back again, right? So that's why, and I'm not saying that you cannot make this site-to-site connections there also, but that is not the service offered by this cloud service provider. They are saying Internet Gateway is totally different. If you want that, I can connect to your VMs over the private networks, right? Because one more thing, guys, if you want this, all these IP address, public IP address should be static and not changeable when you reboot the machine, then you need to take the service of Elastic IP address, which is chargeable on the basis of per IP address, because public IP addresses are not unlimited, right? So whatever the IP address which we were getting yesterday when I was showcasing you the demonstration on AWS, those were just temporary public IP addresses. If you reboot the machine, that IP address is going to be changed. But for such services, if you want, then, for example, if you want your VPN tunnel to be always up and running, this IP address on the Internet Gateway is always, or this IP address here is always going to be the same, which is charging you. If you want a permanent IP address, public IP address dedicated to you, then it is chargeable. And believe me, it charges a lot, right? So, but they are giving me another service because it is already having the private IP addresses. And if you can connect over the virtual gateway, and that is why they say do not connect over Internet Gateway, although you have reachability, I will be giving you virtual private gateway so that you can communicate inside using the private one. But that's a really good question, by the way. And thanks for asking. Yeah, Punish, anything else?
Yeah. So, okay. I think that's already been answered. So the direct connection between AWS, VPC, and data center is called Express Route on Azure, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Mohammed Ayub, if you can please write your question to Punish.
So this one, can we have single VPG for a set of VPC?
No. But yes, there is still one thing which is still not completing the complete picture, which we are going to discuss in tomorrow's session, which is Transit Gateway. And Transit Gateway is the thing which you would like to use because it's recently introduced by all major cloud service providers. So do not worry. There is one more thing, and which is going to resolve all your problem maybe tomorrow. Yeah, Punish.
So that's how firewall policies are synchronized between ASF firewall and client VPN.
Yeah, so that is basically a whole topic. So if you consider we have any kind of client, and that's why we have that client, right, which understand the language of ASA, whatever it is sending. So At ASA side, we need to define some of the configuration parameters, right? That yes, if any kind of client is coming to me, I should enable it SSL connection, and when it makes it, I will push some of the things from the client, from the ASA to the client over the same SSL VPN connection. So there is a lot of things with respect to that. Maybe maybe I can have some sessions on remote IP, remote access connections. How do we make in maybe some other class? But yes, there is a way how ASA is sending, how ASA is informing any kind of client, few of the things.
Remote VPN for laptop user, you have talked about the possible way to connect to VPC. One is direct via client VPN and other one is via data center. But via data center is not more efficient solution if cost is not a factor because it will add latency. But my question, if some of the application hosted in data center and some hosted in cloud, how an end user can connect to data center VPC and cloud VPC offered by AWS?
Yeah, then basically the administrator of that organization who is having such kind of setup will be informing you about that. Maybe he could have been using a single VPN client. So in the VPN client, if you see that there are multiple options to connect to San Jose, connect to Bangalore, right? Similarly, we can have a different profile for cloud, different profile for our company's organization. So when you connect, you need to select where you want to go. So there are solutions for this. No worries. If you see in your AnyConnect also, you can see that where you want to connect. If you want to connect to San Jose or somewhere else. Okay. Yeah, Punish, any other questions we have? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Punish.
So if host is connected with AWS cloud using client VPN, now it wants to access the sources which are on-prem DC.
I think we have answered it. Anything else?
Okay. So this transit VPC support RA VPN connection.
Yes.
Okay. I think this is one question. More
Instead of CSR, you can spin up your own ASA and then connect to it. Yeah, Punish, go ahead.
I think that's probably require a long explanation. If you're using transit VPC, what are the disadvantages and limitations? So
once you see this transit gateway, you can figure out the disadvantage of using transit VPC. And the first thing which we are going to discuss tomorrow is this one. And tomorrow we will be considering some other options also. Don't worry. Yeah, Punish.
Okay, so I think that's already been answered. But it's why do you need a VPN connection from VPC to? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Why do we need a VPN connection from VPC to transit VPC? You can just have IPsec connection between transit VPC to data center.
This and that is one of the problem with the transit VPC, that you need this IPsec connection inside AWS cloud, and that is where exactly this transit gateway solution come into picture. So you do not need to, and that is why basically I'll leave it to tomorrow. You will be getting the answer for that.
And just one question from my side. So we can say that this transit gateway, it's working as a route reflector, correct?
Transit gateway, kind of. You can, because you can consider it as an area zero in OSPF. Everybody is going through that, so hub and spoke topology kind of thing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, I think that's
because route reflector, we cannot compare it much towards route reflector, because route reflector could not be maybe sometimes it's part of the data plane, but sometimes it is just the control plane. The actual data is not going to the route reflector, right? But here, if you can see, it is more wise to compare it with area zero, the transit VPC. Kapil, there is one message from Kapil also. Wouldn't make more sense for remote clients to connect to cloud using VPN connection via DC so that I can enforce the security parameters as per. Basically, you need to, Kapil, there are always trade-offs, right? Some people consider security cost and all those things. So they will definitely choose this thing. But for an organization, for a small organization, whose every means everything is into the cloud, almost 95%, they do not want to do this. So, okay, I don't think we have a question, any more question now. So it was wonderful talking to you guys. A lot of good questions. You guys are keeping me on the toes to learn new things, asking these questions. Thank you so much once again, and see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's session is going to be really, really interesting. Have a nice day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.